Alright, finally got this Bobcat completely solved for fuel issues. And I think I did like 3 other videos before this. Each time I kept getting a little closer to totally fixed, but here's the ultimate deal. Left the primer bulb here. My gloves are all shredded. Just put the inline fuel filter here. And then I just added a 12 volt 5 to 7 psi lift pump. On Amazon it was listed as like a 5 to 7 psi low pressure fuel pump, and it's 12 volts, and that goes up to this one-way check valve. So I had these kind of in some different spots before, but basically what I found was when it would do its thing, it would starve out after about 15 minutes for fuel, lose power. And I think in my last video I explained I lifted the cab and went way up under there and pulled out the little piece of fuel line, and in fact I set that aside over here, so I'm going to give that to my neighbor. This is how much I took off right here, and there was a check valve in this end. So this was like stuck down in the tank, and the whole bottom inch was just surrounded in rust and junk, and so it would clog that guy up and totally pull into a vacuum and starve for fuel. And the giveaway was this pump, primer bulb would be sucked totally flat. There's nothing I could do. I'd shut the machine off, wait like half an hour, it might come back up. A couple times it didn't, and I ended up just barely able to limp the thing back up here. Then I would put my blowgun in here and blow the rust out of the end of it, and it would run. So I shortened it. That took care of everything. But what I found is after it would get hot, like about half an hour into it, it wouldn't suck into a vacuum anymore. But this high pressure pump on the suction side wouldn't be drawing enough fuel, and it'd have to pump the primer bulb a few times, and that thing would run awesome for like another 5 minutes, and then it would it wouldn't be able to draw fuel again. So there was no restriction or anything. I think it's just this thing's probably passed quite a bit of sediment in its life. It's probably pretty hammered, and so this little 12 volt low pressure lift pump, I'm calling it a lift pump, it's perfect. I mean, it's like it never loses power. I ran it for like an hour and a half the other day, and just each time wide open throttle if I wanted it would do it, and totally fixed the problem. So I'll show you how I did it. They sell it with this is 5/16 fuel line, and they sell it with a couple different size adapters, but 5/16 in, 5/16 out. I just made sure I put some real worm clamps, some higher pressure clamps, because all this is going to be up to 7 psi here. The one-way check valve may not really be necessary at this point, but I like it because it keeps the pump always primed, so the thing fires right up. I don't pump the primer bulb or anything, and I think it's probably going to make this fuel pump last longer, because it's always going to stay it's always going to have fuel in it. And so I'm afraid if you didn't have the check valve, the fuel would drain back down into the tank, since I blew the check valve off the end of the tank. And I think this is going to make this pump last longer. This was on Amazon. I think it was 30 bucks for the kit. 12 volts. I tapped in to, there's a connector that is over here. I'll follow the wires, right? I put this little harness in. There was just a little 2-wire 12 volt and ground connector for some kind of an accessory. So I know the engineers designed it with a fuse and everything. It was the right size gauge wire. So I just jumped right into there, ran my wires, soldered them, put it in a nice conduit, and now this thing runs all the time that the ignition's on. So as soon as I go to start it, you'll hear it pump, 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 and that's been running awesome. The other thing I found, once I got it to run long enough, before it wouldn't run long enough, I couldn't tell, but once I got it to run long enough, I found that the battery was dying as it was running. It's not that the battery's bad, it wasn't charging. And so my next video will be real quick on that. And the alternator's buried way in there, so I got that. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna drop this cab real quick, and then I will show you guys fired up. It runs perfect. Alright, just set the cab down right now, and this thing hasn't run since yesterday, so I'm Almost not gonna prime it or anything. Used to have to always prime it all the time. Just turn it on. Hear the fuel pump running already. Just pumps away.
I don't want to go full throttle on it since I just started it, but you know, it's got good power. Run perfect now. That's the fix. If I were to work on these often, this is the only one I'll probably ever work on. If I were to work on these, that's what I would do. That low pressure pump just, it makes it so much nicer. So that's what I got.